What is up, sports bettors? Welcome to the Guys and Bets podcast. It is week 8 of the NFL season. I am Andrew Avery here with Joe Osborne and Kris. That was the most hardcore one yet.
Fired up, man.
And
Start
Kris,
of NBA season.
NBA season begins tonight. And Kris Abbot.
Hello.
As always, going the quiet route there. Week 8. And here is your stat of the podcast, boys. NFC West teams are a combined 13-1 against the spread on the road so far this season.
Really? I didn't know that.
San Francisco 3-1, Seattle 3-0, the Rams 4-0, the Cardinals 3-0. We have 2 spots this week, the Seahawks at Atlanta and the Cardinals at the Saints.
Kind of like them both.
Do you?
Yeah.
No, I don't like the Cardinals myself.
Can't bet against Teddy Bridgewater, man. He just makes people money.
Can't bet against Kliff Kingsbury in the air raid offense.
True, but we'll get into that and more. If you're new to the podcast, we break down every game on the NFL board. Of course, we're into bye weeks now, being at week 8. And this week, we have the Dallas Cowboys and the Baltimore Ravens off. So we go through all the games, talk about where the line's open, talk about where they're at now. We talk stats, trends, betting info, injuries, everything to get you ready for the weekend. It's always good that you get someone to do your homework for you. So you should be starting with us. And we will start on Thursday Night Football. And it's a doozy this week, boys. It is the Washington Redskins at the Minnesota Vikings. This opened at -14. It's now 16. Total opened at 40. It's now 42. Vikings are the best home bet in the NFL at 3-0 against the spread so far this season. But this is obviously a massive spread, so massive that it's been rare that the Vikings are favored by this much. 4 times, I believe, in our database. But the previous time was last season against the Buffalo Bills, a game in which they lost, if you remember. Adam Thielen hurt his hammy against the Lions. He seems to think he'll play. I think the team thinks otherwise, so keep an eye on his status. Joe, what do you got for this one?
Yeah, I like the Vikings here as a massive favorite for a number of reasons. Looking at the Redskins and night games over the past couple seasons, they've just been atrocious. 5-17 against the spread in their last 22 games at night. You know, everyone knows the Vikings do their best against really bad teams. They're 12-4-1 against the spread in their last 17 games at home versus teams with losing records. They're 10-1 against the spread in their last 11 games as a favorite. They are tied for first in net yards per play on the season. The Redskins way down the bottom of the list at 27th. And even if Thielen's out, he left that Lions game rather early, and it was like a next man up type of thing.
Yeah.
The boys filled in pretty good for him, and Kirk Cousins, punching bag of the NFL. He's looked awesome in a couple of back-to-back weeks now, and now he's going against his former team. So give me the Vikings.
Yeah, Kris, Joe said it there, but 10-1 against the spread in their last 11 games as a favorite. But is this too many points for you here?
No, not at all. You look at their home games, they won by 18 against Philadelphia, they won by 20 against Oakland, and they won by 16 against Atlanta. Now, granted, those are 3 secondaries that have been picked apart by opposing quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But last time I checked, the Washington Redskins aren't all that sexy either, coming off a short week. Potential for at least half the team to have pneumonia after the game they were just playing in.
Yep.
All jokes aside, there's got to be lingering effects from that sloppy game against the Giants.
49ers.
49ers. See, San Francisco, so my head went Giants.
Yeah, that's right.
That happens
Not
to me all the time.
Not the first time you've done.
Yeah. So, I'm on that, and I think I actually put in a waiver claim for Kirk Cousins on my fantasy team today.
Smart.
Because my quarterbacks are Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, one injured, one on a bye.
That's right. A lot of people tweeting, and I don't have them in front of me because I just thought of it, but tweeting out his stats in play-action pass situations, and they're just absurdly good. So, yeah, we had a few weeks ago a little bit of, not controversy, probably the media making more of it than it actually was, but some of the receivers a bit unhappy with what was going on with Cousins and the Vikings offense, and then all of a sudden they're playing like a well-oiled machine here. It is a lot of points, but we've talked about it here on the podcast before. They are a different beast at home. I don't know what I'm going to do here. Either a teaser option for me with this spread, or you just go with the home team because, Skins can't get it done. Kirk Cousins rolling. Vikings at home. Skol.
Okay, timeout.
Yeah.
I should know this. What does Skol stand for?
I don't think it stands for anything. I think it's a word from a Scandinavian language.
That Vikings use.
Yeah, that Vikings use.
Okay.
It's part of a chant, though, I believe.
Okay, which leads me to my next question, and I'm really good at going off topic.
Yeah.
What the hell does Duval mean for the Jaguars?
Isn't it Duval County?
Oh, I don't know.
Is it David Duval, the former PGA golfer?
So
who was
you guys don't know
wannabe-
either. Okay, that's good. Okay, I thought I was the only one. Like, I see all these hashtags. I'm like, what the hell does this shit
Look
mean?
it up right now while I tee up this next game.
Skål meaning written in Danish, Norwegian, and Swedish, and skal in Faroese in Iceland. It means cheers or good health. It's what you say when you're doing a toast.
Okay.
All right.
And Duval. David Duval.
If that's what it is,
Big
then
Jags fan?
It's not. I think it's
They
Duval.
honor him at the games?
I think it's Duval County.
as a way to recognize the county that makes up the majority of Jacksonville. The fans always use DTWD, which stands for Duval Till We Die.
Did you say DTF?
Yes, I am, but DTWD.
DTWD. So I'm 2-0 on your trivia. Right now
There you
to
go.
start
This
the
is why
show.
you take Ninja to trivia night, because I didn't know either of those things. I feel like I should have known that one, though.
A game that looks horrible on paper, quite frankly, is the Chargers at the Bears here. And it opened with the Bears as 5.5-point favorites. It's now -4. Total open 48.5. It's down a half point to 40. Chargers an atrocious 1-5-1 against the spread. I have zero clue what the Bears are personally. They've lost back-to-back games, both straight up and against the spread. Probably a stay away for me, but gun to my head right now probably says Bears, Joe. But what do you got for this one?
Yeah, I'm leaning Bears. There's certain teams and certain players in the NFL where a poor performance really gets put under a microscope and maybe gets made too much of. Kirk Cousins, when he has a bad game, he gets blown up. He's a punching bag. Same with the Bears. And Mitch Trubisky, obviously, no excuse for their performance last week, but they had, they tend to bounce back in these situations. They're 6-1-1 ATS in their last 8 games at home after failing to cover in the most recent home game. But I think my favorite bet for this game would have to be the under. Everything is screaming under. The total's gone under in 5 of the Chargers' last 6 games. Average combined score of 37 points. Total's gone under in 8 of the Bears' last 11. Average combined score just 33.3 points. So I would go under. I think that the Bears' defense bounces back.
Bit of a meaningless stat here, Chris, because of AFC versus NFC. But the Chargers 1-6 straight up and against the spread in their last 7 against the monsters of the Midway. What are you thinking about this one?
I think I'm with Joe. I think I like the under in this game. The Chargers are completely unreliable.
Horrible, man.
The Bears suck.
Yep.
So under 40. Yeah, I mean, the Bears defense, I don't know. I think they were fine until they started to get lit up, and then they gave up. I don't know, man. The Melvin Gordon, Austin Eckler thing is driving me nuts.
Mm-hmm.
The Chargers just play calling. I'm staying away from this game. I don't like it at all. But if I had to, it would be under.
A game that looks pretty good. We alluded to it off the top, but the Cardinals visit the New Orleans Saints in a game that books opened Saints -7.5. You can now find it anywhere from 8.5 to 9.5. Excuse me. And the total's at 48.5. Saints on an absolute tear. 5 straight wins, both straight up and against the spread. Arizona clicking too, though. 3-0 straight up and ATS in their last 3. And one of those spots I alluded to with those NFC West teams away from home being a money-making machine. So I don't know what you guys feel about this one, but start with you, Joe. What do you got?
Yeah, I like the Saints on a teaser this week on a 6-point tease due to some pretty great straight-up numbers that they have. First of all, I should mention that they're 5-0 straight up in ATS since Drew Brees' injury. Looking at their play at home over the past few seasons, 18-3 over their last 21 home games. That's straight up. And they're pretty good before a bye. And I think this one's a bit telling because it's been the same head coach throughout all of these games. I think they're 9-2 straight up in their last 11 games before a bye. So I think there's a bit of urgency there that they want to go into the bye with a win, and something that Sean Payton probably emphasizes. So I love them on a teaser. We'll see where the number's at over the weekend. I might like them to cover, but definitely on a teaser.
Couple meaningless numbers here for you, Chris. Saints 6-0 against the spread in their last 6 in October. 5-1 against the spread in the last 6 games in the early afternoon. But at the top, when we sort of mentioned those NFC teams and those away spots this week, you alluded to the fact that you might be betting on Kliff Kingsbury. What are your thoughts?
No, I don't think I can bet on Kliff Kingsbury here. I'd like to. I really do like this Arizona team. But when you look at the wins they've had the last few weeks, you got to look at the opponents. They beat the Bengals, the Falcons, and the Giants. So I've got to believe, especially now running up against one of the hottest defenses in the league in New Orleans, they're going to score a lot less points, a lot fewer points is the proper English. And I think New Orleans, oddly enough, has continued to score 36 last week, 31 against Tampa.
Yeah.
33 against Seattle, and that was a Teddy Bridgewater game, so they'll probably cover here. It's a little too big for me to play. I could see this game going over, though, as well.
Yeah,
48.5.
You take a look at those teams that the Cardinals have beaten. That's probably maybe 3 of the worst 5, 6, 7 defenses in the league. Now they're going against a team that looks like a top 5 defense. So it might be a rude awakening for Kyler Murray and that air raid offense.
Yeah, I could see it going over simply because the Arizona runs a lot of offensive plays. So Murray's good. I can see them breaking a couple of big ones. They'll get their points.
Yep.
And I think New Orleans is going to get theirs too. There was some talk of Drew Brees playing in this game.
He's practicing this week.
Yeah, which doesn't make sense because they're going into a bye and he could have 3
And they're
three
winning
full
football
weeks almost.
games.
Yeah.
And you got to consider the opponent too.
Yeah.
This is a very winnable game.
Totally.
So,
I agree, man. You don't need to rush Drew Brees back, especially like Chris said, going into the bye week. Teddy Bridgewater getting it done. Saints, I believe, are they number 2 in NFL Super Bowl futures odds? No, 3. Patriots, Chiefs, Saints.
I actually haven't looked, but you know where you can find that information? At oddshark.com.
Oddshark.com.
So I'm going to take a quick look right there and
I believe
let
that's
you know.
what it is, though. But no reason to rush Brees back. And yeah, Joe, like you said, this is a very, very winnable game with the personnel that they have at their disposal. So, stick with it. The Tennessee Titans host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Titans are 2.5-point home faves here. And total open 47, down half point to 46.5. Over has cashed in 4 straight Tampa Bay games, so they've got that going for them, not much else. And maybe the Titans have found their QB. Tannehill leads them to the win against the Chargers, although they probably didn't deserve it considering I want to use an expletive, but I won't, considering how that game finished. Some terrible possessions there for the Bolts, especially inside the 5-yard line. But what do you got for this one?
Yeah, Tennessee, they tend to win at home when they're supposed to. They're 10-2 straight up in their last 12 games as a home favorite. The Bucs really bad on the road, 4-17 straight up in their last 21 road games. The Titans, though, if you're looking for a different type of bet, they're tied for a league worst first half spread record of 1-6.
Ooh, okay.
Bucs 4-2 ATS in the first half. These are the 2 ultimate zigzag teams in the NFL, meaning following up a cover with following up a non-cover or a loss. So, the Bucs are coming off that embarrassing loss in London versus the Panthers. Titans coming off that close win at home to the Chargers. So, 2 very, very, very unpredictable teams. I don't know if I'm going to include this on anything this week, but if forced to make a bet, I would go with Tennessee. I think that their defense is one of the better Ds in the league. And I think they can force Jameis Winston into some mistakes. And as long as Ryan Tannehill can protect the ball. And let me say, guys, I'm a Miami Dolphins fan, and I know there's some optimism for the Titans. And guys, if you're a Titans fan out there, don't take the bait. I've seen this year after year with the Dolphins where Tannehill has a good performance, where he doesn't turn over the ball and puts up some good numbers. Then he follows that up with just an absolute garbage game. So be very, very careful and temper your expectations.
Yeah, but it must have been a breath of fresh air to a degree to see a strong quarterback performance in that Titans offense, considering the way Mariota has played this season and so wildly inconsistent since he got in the league from Oregon. Chris, Titans 6-1 against the spread in their last 7 against the NFC. Any thoughts on this one early on?
I kind of like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this spot, and let me tell you why. Tennessee had no business winning that game last week, the way the Chargers came back. That should have been over a couple of different times. And Tennessee can't score the ball, which is the one thing that Tampa Bay has done consistently. When you look at the offenses that the Titans have played, they did give up 20 to the Chargers, should have been more. They gave up 19 to Indianapolis. They gave up that was about it. 24 to Atlanta. No, 10 to Atlanta. 14 to Buffalo. I think Tampa Bay is going to be the highest scoring team this season against the Tennessee Titans coming off of a bye.
See, I disagree. You guys say that the Titans should have lost that game, but I disagree because the Chargers shouldn't even have been in that position to have the drive. If you recall, the Titans went for it on 4th down with that sneak that Tannehill did with, I don't know, less than a minute left or whatever, and it was a bad spot. Had they challenged it, they would have been given the first down and they would have milked the clock and ended the game. So it was still a very, very ugly ending and awful coaching not to challenge that play, of course. They had 3 timeouts left, for God's sakes. But, I guess, we're grasping at straws to find positive things to say about the Titans here. But,
Seahawks at the Falcons, another NFC West spot on the road here. Atlanta is the worst bet in the league, 1-6 against the spread. Matt Ryan left last week's game with a foot injury, and now Mohamed Sanu is traded. Joe had been talking about the last few weeks anyway, about the Dolphins getting competition for the first overall draft pick from the likes of the Bengals. Atlanta almost in that conversation, man, and a tough one here.
Yeah, it looks like they're very, very close to throwing in the towel. This doesn't look like a winnable game for them, and they're going into their bye. So if they want to make a coaching change, the time to do it would be during the bye week. And a big part of Atlanta's problems is that they get off to incredibly slow starts. They have a league worst first half point differential of -10. So maybe a good opportunity to jump on Seattle first half spread. And Seattle's been great on the road, and some teams, when they go into a different time zone, they don't perform. But the Seahawks show up in this spot. They're 5-0 straight up and ATS in their last 5 games played in the early afternoon. And big over team, man. They've gone over in 12 of their last 16 games, average combined score 52.13. When these teams hook up, they tend to go over. 7 of the last 8 games have gone over, average combined score of 58.38. But it might be a different Falcons squad on Sunday, so I don't know how much you can rely on that.
Yeah. What are you looking at here, Chris?
I'm going to go back to the well with the Seahawks here. I was heavy on them last week. It came back to bite me.
Yep, me too.
But Atlanta shouldn't really be inside a touchdown against anyone right now. Like, they have been so bad. It's almost comical to watch the Atlanta Falcons play. And it's gotten worse over the last few weeks. Like, they gave up 53 to Houston. They lost to Arizona and 37 to a struggling Rams team last week. And I think Seattle's going to pick them apart.
Interesting one here. Pits the Philadelphia Eagles at the Buffalo Bills. Open Bills -1. It's now -2. Total open 41.5. It's now 43. Philly off back-to-back losses, both straight up and ATS at Mini, at Dallas, and now they get the 3rd straight road game at Buffalo. Bills profitable as a spread bet, 4-2 against the spread, and for under bettors at 1-5 OU, Joe.
Yeah, I think I like the Eagles in this one. They're a pretty good bounce back team, 11-4 straight up in their last 15 games after a loss. So I think I like them at least to cover, or maybe even on a teaser that I've been mentioning a lot and that I will continue to mention on this podcast because there's a few that I like this week. Bills didn't look so good against the Dolphins there. The Dolphins were in that game. I was getting worried as a Dolphins fan. Every game is a must-lose game for the Dolphins, so you can't be winning straight up as a 16.5-point underdog, whatever they were. But the Bills ended up righting their wrongs and getting back into that and winning it. But I don't think they look very good, so I like the Eagles to bounce back here.
Well, they'll have to buck an ugly betting trend of 1-10-1 against the spread in their last 12 in the early afternoon, Chris.
Man, the Eagles did not look good.
That's a joke.
It was
Atrocious.
really bad. And you know what, though? That was their offense not performing at all. Their defense has kind of been lit up a lot this year.
Yeah.
And I think Buffalo -1.5 at home here is a really, really good play. I really do. I think the only question mark, and we hate talking about motivation and backs against the wall.
Yeah.
It's kind of Buffalo's a bit of a fat pig right now. They're kind of sitting back and looking pretty good. They've pretty much got second place in the division wrapped up.
Yep.
And Philadelphia absolutely has to win. So there's a little bit of fear in their game, a little bit of guilt in their game. But I think Buffalo's good enough. And I think Buffalo was pushed enough by Miami that they should be more focused this week.
Which is the worst division? No, let me rephrase that. Which is the worst division in the NFL? Because these two teams represent two of the worst divisions in the league, the NFC and the AFC East.
I would say the NFC East.
I think I agree.
Because, the Redskins are going to be competing with the Dolphins for that first overall pick. The Giants, since that big Danny Dimes game in Tampa
came
Bay,
back down to earth.
And he's a rookie, right? And they've had a lot of injuries too. But the Giants' defense is absolutely atrocious. And the Cowboys obviously have their holes. They look good on Sunday night. And the Eagles have plenty of holes too and a lot of injuries. So the Eagles have some excuses there. So I would go with that division just because you have the Patriots and Bills who both look playoff bound in the AFC East.
Well, that's it's funny because we're asking really who's the best second place team, right? To decide which is the worst division. And we're going to say Buffalo is better than Philadelphia, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. There you go. It's the NFC East. Which, there's more disaster in the AFC East, but that's because the Patriots make teams look really, really bad.
Yeah. The Giants, sticking in the NFC East, visit the Detroit Lions. This opened Lions -7.5, now -7. Total open 48.5, up a full point to 49.5. Kerryon Johnson probably out for this one. Keep an eye on him. Lions have only been favored one other time this season and failed to cover. That was as 3-point chalk in Week 1 against the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, Lions tend to be pretty good against bad teams. They're 7-2 ATS in their last 9 games at home versus teams with losing records. But something about this Giants team on the road, they're 8-2 against the spread in their last 10 road games. But I think the Detroit Lions are showing us something here offensively. They're just going off. The defense hasn't been there to match. And the Lions are going to be on a teaser for me this week, guys. I think I like them to cover the, 7-point spread?
Yeah.
But I love them on a teaser there to get them at 1 inside all those key numbers.
Yeah.
And I just think they light this Giants defense up.
Yeah, good call there.
Yeah, I'm not going to get too complicated with this. I agree with Joe on that play. The total is probably right about where, like we saw last week, the Lions can play it either way. Like they can, if they fall behind, they can air it out and score some points.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the Lions team total is. I haven't seen that yet, but that might be a play too.
The other New York team, the Jets, head to Duval to play the Jacksonville Jaguars. Open Jags -4, now -4.5. Total's 41. Jets' embarrassing performance on Monday Night Football, obviously fresh in the mind here. And the Jags coming off a 10-point win at Cincy as 4.5-point chalk, Joe.
Yeah, I find a lot of these games that are like, hey, it's so obvious that this is an under bet. I find a lot of these have actually been hitting this season, and this is one of my favorite totals plays of the week. If you look at the trends going into this one, the total's gone under in 5 of the Jets' last 7 games. Average combined score 37-1-4. The big one, the total's gone under in 6 of the Jags' last 7 at home. Average combined score of just 30 points. And the Jets, Adam Gase, the offensive mastermind, they're averaging 9.4 points over their last 5 games. You can make up all the excuses you want about injuries and whatever, but they had their guy in on Monday night, Sam Darnold, and he did dick all against the Patriots at home.
Yeah.
That was very ugly, going against another great defense here. The Jags might be overvalued a little bit on the spread, but I like the under quite a bit.
What do you hate more, Adam Gase or Tropicana Field?
Adam Gase.
Yeah.
Is Adam Gase the Tropicana Field of NFL coaching?
That's a hard one.
I only asked
the
hard questions.
But yeah, no, I don't like Adam Gase as a Miami Dolphins fan. I watch way too many draw plays on 3rd and 10 to know that this guy isn't what he's made out to be. We've discussed him before. He built his reputation off working as Peyton Manning's quarterback coach. I could work as Peyton Manning's quarterback coach when he was in his prime, and maybe I'd get a head coaching job. But yeah, I don't like the guy, and he's showing his true colors as the head coach of the Jets, just like he did as a head coach of the Dolphins.
Yeah, I could see Jacksonville cover here. I could see Jacksonville in a teaser here. Or I could see the under. 41.5 looks like it's going to go to 42, so if people want to keep betting it up. But New York's got the worst offense in the league. Jacksonville's defense is pretty good.
Yeah.
Let me see if their defense
Probably a
better at
contest
home
play
than it
for
is on
me.
the road. Yeah, it is.
I
Yeah.
think so.
You love it, like it that much?
I do. Jets are awful.
Yeah, they are. They're terrible. They might be worse than the Dolphins.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Is that
It's
an
not good.
overreaction?
We will see. They have 2 games against each other
Can't
this
wait.
season.
Hey,
wait.
Miami wasn't terrible last week.
No, they hung around a little bit.
That was a game, the entire game. So
It's got me worried as a Dolphins fan that they're going to start trying here. They got to get that quarterback.
NFL back to London for the Cincinnati Bengals versus LA Rams. Rams 13.5-point faves here. Total open 47.5, now 48.5. This is the most the Rams will have been favored by to date this season. Previous was 9 points against Tampa in a game they lost 55-40. Bengals, of course, 0-7 straight up, but are 1-0 against the spread as double-digit underdogs, which was plus 10.5 at Baltimore, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, this one's kind of hard for me because I was down on the Rams coming into their Falcons game, and of course I was dead wrong on that, but how much do we want to react to that one-game sample size? Because coming into that game, they had lost 3 straight, including 2 as a home favorite, but they've been good in this spot, man. 6-1 against the spread in their last 7 as a double-digit favorite, and the Bengals just got awful. Over their last 3 games, they're ranked 31st in net yards per play. Sometimes we see teams go over to London, though, and weird things happen, like when we were in London and the Raiders lit up the Bears defense.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know about this one. I would lean Rams, but it's not a game that I like too much from a betting perspective or from a watching perspective.
Yeah. Going to be a tough one.
The Bengals have given up over 450 yards in their last 3 games and 4 times this year. Another game, 416. And Todd Gurley actually looked pretty good last week for the first time in a while. So, I mean, you've got to think LA looks good here. 13 is a lot. We're seeing still a lot of action coming in. 3/4 of the bets right now at minus 13 are on the Rams. I probably wouldn't play this game, but
Give
if
me
I
the Bengals.
get out of here,
Give me
why?
the Bengals.
Why? Give me one good reason, Tracy Chapman.
Because the Rams are, like Joe was talking about when it comes to the Titans, zigzag. And they zag more than they zig. The Rams have not looked good. Yeah, they're coming off a big win, but against the Falcons are a train wreck.
They are.
And to keep this within 2 touchdowns in a neutral field, yeah, I'll take the Bengals. Not in a contest maybe, but gun to my head, yeah.
Yeah.
You got McVay going against Sean McVay going against one of his former proteges, and Zach Taylor too.
Sick
I don't
of
know.
hearing about him,
You don't
too.
really factor that into your handicap in any way, but just something of note, I guess, for the game.
The Rams are 5-2 against the spread this year. That's significant. The Bengals are 0-7, man, and they looked so bad last week. So bad. Like, when is it up for Andy Dalton? And the injury report for the Bengals is like 3 scrolls on my laptop screen.
Broncos at Colts. Opened Indy minus 4.5, now minus 6. Total up a half point from 43.5 to 44. Indy, one of the best bets in the league so far, 4-1-1 against the spread. Denver, pathetic against KC last week, losing by 24 as 3-point underdogs, Joe.
Yeah, a few. I mean, talking about bets that look so obvious, we have a totals one that looks obvious, and the Colts against spread looks very obvious. Here's why. The total's gone under in 14 of the Broncos' last 16 games, average combined score of 37.31. Broncos games this season have had an average combined score of just 35.4. Looking at the Broncos, 2-9 straight up and 3-8 ATS over their last 11 games. And they're one of these teams, when they go into a different time zone, they don't do well, man. They're 1-9 straight up and 2-8 ATS in their last 10 in the early afternoon. So you can bet the under and the Colts individually, or you can put them on a teaser if you want. But the Broncos were so overvalued coming into that Chiefs game last week, coming off their wins versus the Titans and Chargers, and you got to look at the bigger sample size sometimes, and maybe that's what we have to do with the Rams, actually. But yeah, I think the Colts smashed them here, and I think it goes under.
Yeah, I agree. I remember coming into the season, we were talking about teams to look at to bet, and I said Indy, despite the Andrew Luck stuff that happened. Jacoby Brissett, 14 touchdowns, just 3 picks, and just sacked 7 times. This Indy offensive line is the key to this team's success, offering a big help to Jacoby Brissett getting settled in to take the reins from Andrew Luck. And they look good, and they're a bettor's best friend right now, Chris.
Yeah, and they're just a solid team all the way around, and maybe give me a Marlon Mack rushing prop in this game too.
Sure.
When you look at the rushing yards against for Denver, they're kind of low the last 3 games, but that was against 3 kind of passing attacks. Well, Tennessee should have had more, and then I look at that, but that was a bad football game. Anyway, Marlon Mack is due for a breakout game. The Broncos defense stays on the field longer than most in the league. They're number 4 in passing defense, so I think it's a great opportunity for Marlon Mack scrimmage yards here.
More meaningless stats. Broncos 1-9 straight up, 2-8 ATS in their last 10 games in the early afternoon. Panthers at 49ers, and as a Niners fan, little bit nervous about this one. Open Niners -6, it's now -5.5 total, 41.5. Niners tied with the Bills as the best under bet in the league at 1-5 over under. San Francisco has allowed 10 points in the last 3 games, and the quarterback box scores in those 3, which consists of Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, and of course Case Keenum, are a complete joke. But I'm scared of this one. It's going to be a different beast with Kyle Allen and, of course, the insanely good Christian McCaffrey here.
Yeah, hard game to figure out, and I don't know if we should really put too much into that 49ers game versus the Redskins.
Toss it out.
9-0 win. Yeah, you got to toss that out along with the stats. They're playing in a swimming pool, basically. But, you look at the Panthers on the road, 4-0 straight up ATS, their last 4 road games. 49ers, 6-0, last 6 games, average win margin. They're beating teams pretty good by 15.33 points. And talk about meaningless stats. This one means nothing, but just for you history buffs out there, you sports NFL betting history buffs, Panthers 14-2 against the spread in the last 16 games versus the 49ers.
Yep.
I don't know, man. I can't figure this one out. I've been thinking about it, and the Panthers, it doesn't make sense with Kyle Allen, but they keep winning.
They keep winning ball games.
And one minor point of concern, though, for your 49ers, bud, is Mr. Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't really had that breakout, insane fantasy performance, and the Panthers' defense is pretty good. So maybe he gets exposed here, or maybe they keep the train going and they pick up another W. Hard game to figure out.
Yeah, Jimmy G hasn't really had that one blowout game, and Kittle hasn't either.
Kittle's done nothing, man.
So, yeah, I mean, it's coming. The team is too good and, undefeated, but to a large degree carried by a stellar defense. And, while Jimmy G and Kittle and, some of the other guys haven't been rolling here as much as that record indicates, defense might be able to give Kyle Allen a little bit of trouble, though, Chris. What are your thoughts?
That's a concern, but here's my question to you, Ninja. Do you think the 49ers are going to run the table and go 16-0?
No. Of course not.
I'm getting somewhere with this. They have 3 divisional games coming up after this one.
Yeah.
To me, with Carolina coming in here after a wet and wild game in Washington, coming back home for the week, Carolina coming off a bye. I think this could be a money line underdog upset.
Yeah, I figured that's where you were going with that one. I wouldn't blame any better that played that. I think it'd be a pretty savvy call here. But
Carolina's got the number 6 scoring offense in the NFL. This is going to be the best offense that San Francisco's faced yet.
yeah, and Carolina hasn't played a defense like this.
No, that's listen, it's true. And that's why it's an interesting game, right?
It is it's going to be a good one. Potentially game of the week. And I say that obviously as a biased 49ers fan. But yeah, it could be a doozy. Raiders at Texans. Texans opened -6.5, now -7. Total open 48, up 3 points to 51. Keep an eye on Will Fuller's status. Injured his hammy against Indy, did not come back into that game, Joe.
Yeah, the Raiders like to suck us in, don't they? You know, that big
every
win,
time.
that big win over the Bears over in London where they dominated most of the game. And then they come into Green Bay and they hung around for a lot of the game, but Derek Carr made the boneheaded play, fumbled through the end zone, and they were pretty much toast after that. They've been pretty bad on the road, though, with John Gruden. 2-12 straight up in their last 14 games on the road. It's home sweet home, though, for the Texans. A bit of a weird one here, so I don't know how much you want to put into this, but the Texans 14-6 ATS in their last 20 games at home after consecutive road games, so they like playing in that on the turf down there in Houston. And I think I like the Texans to bounce back. They were one of my big picks against the Colts in Week 7 because of how well they do in third down, how well they play in the red zone, and they didn't execute there in that game. But I think they get back to that. Looking at the larger sample size, I think you see them connect and bounce back.
Yeah, they'll right the ship this week, I think, as well.
Houston's been getting better as they go along, but I think I like an over in this game as well. Or if getting back to those teasers, if you want to tease the points down to add this game. Oakland, listen, Derek Carr, even though he's number 23 in passing yards, they're number 8 in rushing yards too. Jacobs has been outstanding.
Yes.
But Carr was chucking the ball this weekend, man. I thought he looked pretty good, and this Houston secondary, I think, is susceptible to that. They're number 24 passing yards against. Obviously, we know Oakland's capable of giving up a ton of points. Number 22 scoring defense. Number 22 passing yards against. So this one could be played in the air and might go over the 51.5. And it definitely, I think, looks good if you tease that down to, what would that be, 45.5?
Another potential teaser option for me anyway. Browns Pats, open Pats -11, now -13, totals 46.5. Pats, better's best friend here, 5-2 against the spread, 2-5 over under record entering this one. Browns just 1-3 straight up and against the spread in their last 4 games, Joe.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a bit of a high number, but you know, we say it every week. People are always trying to find reasons to bet against the Patriots, and people try to find reasons again, but man, they're going back to the Super Bowl. They're allowing 6.38 points per game. And I know people, they played the Giants, the Jets, the Dolphins, the Steelers. Still, they're doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, you can only play the team in front of you.
Against really bad teams. They're just obliterating these teams. They go into New Jersey and allow 0 points versus the Jets there on Monday night. They've won 19 straight games at home. And speaking of that big spread, they're dynamite in this spot. 10-2 against the spread in their last 12 as a double-digit favorite. They are 10-2 against the spread in their last 12 games at home versus teams with losing records. And that's all I got to say about that, man. I think I'm gonna hop right back on the Patriots again and
Square
watch.
bet, man.
Well, it's Belichick playing chess and Freddie Kitchen playing I don't even know, Tiddlywinks or something, man. So yeah, I think it's just gonna be outcoached, and that Browns offensive line is really bad. So it looks like it will be a long day for Chris's favorite quarterback, Baker Mayfield.
He's falling in the quarterback rank.
Yeah, bud.
I still like the guy, but yeah, it's hard to argue with that. I think you make a great point. Like, this is the worst head coach arguably in the league. Well, your buddy Adam Gase.
There's a few.
He's in the bottom group.
Quinn
against Yoda here, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So Quinn. Yeah, there should be guys losing their job. How do these guys get their jobs in the first place?
Don't know, man. It's like Joe said. You get hooked up with a a mastermind head coach and a franchise QB, and you, quote, run the offense there, and you parlay that into a head coaching
I mean,
gig.
you can't fault them for...
No, of course not. Of course not. But, I mean, you look at what the Browns did in the second half of last season after they sacked, what's his name there? Oh, my God. Can't remember his name. Hugh Jackson. And then now how they look this year under Freddie Kitchens, it's night and day. They were clicking last year.
Is the Odell Beckham effect part of that?
I don't think so.
He's actually pretty good for them.
Yeah.
I like under in this game. I'll get my pick out before we go off on a tangent. I think under 45.5 because, like you said, the defense of the Patriots just doesn't allow points. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah. Sunday Night Football is the Packers at Chiefs. Chiefs plus 4.5. Totals 48. Patty Mahomes obviously going to miss this one. Packers come into this one top of the NFC North at 6-1 and are 2-0 against the spread away from Lambeau so far this year. Arrowhead, tough place to play though, Joe.
Yeah, I think I like the Chiefs here, guys.
Yeah.
Matt Moore, you got to take a page from that Teddy Bridgewater book of backup QBing, and you got to not turn over the ball, and I think they can design an offense designed around short passes, mixing in Tyreek Hill, and, of course, Travis Kelce. And if the running backs are healthy, I think they can get that going. You talk about a guy like Aaron Rodgers, and you instantly think about this guy as like a big game performer. Not really. Under the bright lights in night games on primetime, he's just, or the Packers as a whole, 1-7-1 against the spread in their last 9 games at night. Not a good spot for them there. Tend to be playing a lot of high-scoring games, though, on the road, the Packers do. Over a 19 of their last 26, average combined score of 53. But I don't know if it will get that high. I don't know what to expect with Matt Moore there offensively, so I think I'll stay away from the total, but I'm definitely leaning Chiefs.
It's a tough one, right? The Chiefs' defense, I think we've how do I say this? We've underrated them. They're the number 12 scoring defense in the league. They're allowing 21.43 points per game. They're giving up a ton of yardage, but they do manage to keep the ball out of the end zone a little bit. They really stepped up when Mahomes went down. I think maybe Green Bay might be legit. We've been trying to say that they're not for a while, but they're 6-1. They're 5-2 against the spread. Aaron Rodgers had a career type day last week. Over or Green Bay for me here.
Breaking news, gentlemen.
Okay.
Per Adam Schefter, Denver is dealing wide receiver Emmanuel Sanders and a 2020 fifth-round pick to San Francisco in exchange for a 2020 third and fourth.
Oh, you're excited.
I knew
Love
Sanders,
it.
Yeah, I knew he was going to get dealt. And this, I hate to keep bringing this back to myself and making it all about me, but as a Dolphins fan,
That's the subtitle for the podcast.
this
by the
very,
way.
very, very much worries me because the Broncos are one of those teams who is in desperate need of that franchise quarterback, and they have every incentive in the world to tank and to go after Tua. So that does concern me a little bit. But hey, even more reason to like the under in that game versus the Colts, right?
Couple of franchise quarterbacks coming, by the way. Like Joe Burrow's been unbelievable.
Yeah,
Jalen Hurts
Justin
has
Herbert.
been good. Yeah, Justin Fields.
I don't know about Jalen Hurts in the NFL.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We didn't know about Kyler Murray either. He's doing okay.
Yeah, true. Yeah, maybe you're right. They're doing good things there with quarterbacks.
They are, but I mean, Burrow looks like a pro.
Burrow looks great. He really took a leap this year. He's already set LSU single-season touchdown records, beating Jamarcus Russell and Matt Mock.
And it's week 8.
He's having a great season.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. They play what? They play Alabama next week?
Not in prime time, by the way. Early afternoon game. Ridiculous. Anyway.
There's a UFC that night, so it works out.
Monday Night Football is one that I'd rather not talk about, but we've got to for the sake of the podcast. Dolphins at Steelers. Open. Steelers minus 16.5. Drop 2 points, though, to 14.5. Totals 42.5, Joe.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a high number for the Steelers, who haven't been incredibly impressive this season. They're turning it on a little bit lately, though. Nice win against the Chargers their last time out. But, it's kind of a justifiable number. If you take a look at the Dolphins, they've lost 9 straight games going back to last season. Average losing margin of 23 points. Awful on the road going back to last season. 3-12 against the spread in their last 15 on the road. Steelers defense is starting to step it up here. They've allowed just 16 points per game over their last 5 at home. Dolphins averaging just 10.5 over their last 6. So not really a bet that I'd be overly keen on making, but I think I would go with the Steelers here, even as a big favorite. I don't think I would judge the Dolphins too much off, maybe their best performance of the season in Buffalo was a loss, but one game sample size, they're kind of short. So I think the Steelers want to see if they can get back into it. Mike Tomlin, I don't know if his job's on the line, but he wants to make sure it's not on the line. So a good opportunity for them to dominate here.
Dolphins to cover.
Love it.
They've been better.
Yeah.
They've been better, and I don't know what the Steelers are, and Joe's trying to fade his Dolphins. So, they're getting more than 2 touchdowns here against Pittsburgh, who's on a practice roster quarterback. I'm good. Oh, pardon me, Mason Rudolph's back. Still Miami.
Kris taking the Dolphins in Monday Night Football. Game 1 of the World Series goes tonight. If you did not watch the Guys and Bets show, which you can watch on YouTube, on the Oddshark YouTube channel, every Monday through Friday at noon Eastern live. Joe on Nats, first 5 money line, plus 160. Kris on under 6.5. I believe it was minus 15 when we did the show, the price for that one. NBA starts tonight. Joe on Freddie Van Vliet over 12.5 points in the Raps-Pels game. And in the Battle of LA, he is on Clips plus 4. I think I'm going to make a sprinkle on the Clips money line there. That's if you're listening to the podcast before those games start. Regardless, thank you so much for listening. We usually talk a little college football, but we've got to go. We got a time constraint here. So for all your college football, listen to our second podcast, which features Kris and Harry of Against All Odds. The guys chopping up about everything, betting stories, NFL, college football, all that and more. Thank you so much for listening to the pod. We'll see you on Guys and Bets, noon Eastern. Good luck with your betting. We hope we helped. Catch you next week.